Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is NTD Business, and I'm Paul Graney. House flipping is heating up, and lenders want in on the action. Profits on flips are at record highs. China reportedly bans Tesla cars from some places. The Chinese regime is worried the cars could be used for spying. Now be careful when filing your taxes online. Hackers are finding new ways to scam U.S. taxpayers. That and much more coming up at NTD Business. Despite the Federal Reserve's wish to keep borrowing costs low, they're rising. Now, governments and businesses have to offer investors a higher interest rate or else they won't buy their bonds. The yield on a 10-year Treasury hit a 14-month high this week. That's basically what the government has to pay an investor until the investor gets their money back. That means demand for government bonds is falling. Are investors worried that all this money printing might make their investment worthless before they get it back in 10 years? And one bond manager says it's not so much the rise in interest rates as it is the volatility and swiftness of the rise that's unsettling. Bank of America has revised up its target for the 10-year Treasury yield to 2.15% by the end of the year. That's above market consensus, but the bank says it's justified because of, quote, a much more aggressive fiscal stimulus impulse and a quick vaccine rollout. Some investors now starting to anticipate the Fed may hike the interest rates sooner than expected to counteract that potential rise in inflation. But the Fed Chair Jerome Powell has so far brushed off those concerns. Low interest rates create an easy money environment with lots of speculation. The CEO of Quill Intelligent, Danielle DiMartino Booth, tells me she sees it in the housing market too, and we all know how that ended in 2008. Not good. Today, profits for flipping houses, that's buy a house, fix it, sell it on, are at record highs. Flippers are making $66,000 on average per home. Now, lenders, of course, don't want to miss out on the action. More and more are helping flippers finance their operations.
As house flippers hit record numbers, more lenders are willing to help them out. Over 60 lenders are financing flippers, almost a 50% increase in around 2 months. However, it seems only the most experienced flippers are able to make it.
There is a lack of inventory that would otherwise be there were it not for the COVID situation. The most extreme that I have certainly experienced in 30 years, almost 30 years in this industry.
Also, auction and foreclosure proceedings are a huge part of the pipeline that feeds the industry. But because of foreclosure bans, flippers have to get creative.
There are opportunities. I would say that there are less today than there were a year ago today, or maybe 14 months ago. And I would expect that there will be a large supply of inventory coming on the market as we go through 2021, as those moratoriums lift and you see a resurgence of foreclosure and auction activity.
Another big difference, owner-occupant buyers are also purchasing what are normally considered investment properties. Even more competition.
So business is very strong currently. I'm receiving, a great deal of volume in terms of requests for new loan opportunities.
The competition on the lender side is also very high because there are fewer opportunities.
So because of that, the interest of trying to provide financing to the real estate investors is also very high.
So what factors do lenders look for in a borrower who's looking to flip houses?
But the one thing that I really look for primarily is a borrower who has experience, who has a track record of doing investment projects. These people tend to be better equipped to address any issues that come up in the process. And, I feel more comfortable working with those folks as opposed to people who are just trying to get into the industry.
Flippers tend to focus on the lower end of the market. Last year, around 70% of flipped homes sold for less than $300,000. Data from Adam says the most popular states for flipping homes are Tennessee, Arizona, Alabama, Georgia, and Nevada.
Are you on commission-free trading with Robinhood or some other app for your stocks? Well, some Democrats want to tax you 0.1% on every sale. No, not tax your profit on the entire price of the stock, bond, or derivative. A group of Senate Democrats has reintroduced a bill for a financial transaction tax. Progressives have tried and failed to impose a tax like it before, and it's likely to again face opposition from Republicans and some business groups. A study from the nonprofit Tax Foundation says the tax would bring in new revenue, but at the same time decrease trading volume and indirectly raise costs for you, the consumer. The study also says it'll cut GDP because it'll raise the cost of capital. Maybe it'll cut the cost of speculation. That'd be good, right? And the Biden administration says it wants to make the new child tax credit permanent. Under the latest virus spending bill, many families will get free money to the tune of $3,500 per year per kid. There's no work requirement. Families earning under $200,000 with kids under 18 will just get it. So, might add, if it's made permanent, it could add $100 billion per year to the deficit. But it will help in the war against poverty, right? Well, not according to poverty and family expert Robert Rector at the Heritage Foundation. Rector's written over 300 reports on articles, commentaries, and public policy. He's testified before Congress more than 40 times. But be warned, what he's about to say might shock you.
There's an enormous amount of money that's already being spent. And the trick of Washington is that almost none of that money is counted for purposes of determining whether a family is poor. So when we say a family is poor by the official standards, they're poor if they have less than $25,000 a year. A family of four, if their income is less than that. But food stamps are not income. Housing aid is not income. Medicaid is not income. The earned income tax credit cash grants are not income. And amazingly, these new cash grants also are not income. So by official poverty standards, they have no effect on poverty. And we play this trick of basically telling the taxpayer that we have all this massive poverty in the United States. And then we increase taxes, we provide these benefits. And I'm not saying that some of the benefits aren't very needed, but then we turn around and we hide all that spending. And the very next year we come back and say, oh, we still have as much poverty as when we started out. This is a game that the taxpayer and society can never win. They say we have poverty, then we spend money to alleviate poverty, and none of those benefits, none of that spending is counted as having any impact on poverty.
I'm not sure.
You really couldn't make this up, but the government has been doing that for 50 years.
I'm not sure how many people actually know that. That's pretty.
And you certainly are never going to be told that in the mainstream press. Okay? But this is well known in the field. Everybody who knows anything about this poverty measurement. It goes all the way back to the 1970s when the food stamp program was created, and conservatives said, well, wow, this is a lot of money. We're giving this, it's very close to money. We're giving it to low-income families. That's going to reduce poverty, isn't it? And the welfare industry and the official government came back and said, no, that's not income, okay? If you give a family $6,000 a year in earned income tax credit benefits, which have nothing to do with taxes, it's just $6,000 check that's sent, that is not income. If you give them a $10,000 a year housing subsidy, that is not income, okay? Moreover, the Census Bureau reports that are used to calculate this grossly undercount the actual wages and earnings of these families as well by a matter of several $100 billion a year. We can know that whenever we go and take what the survey says their income is and then compare it with, say, the W-2s that they were given to the IRS. You have these huge shortfalls. So those who seek big government have a rationale for always saying, oh my goodness, there's all this unmet need. We're going to not count the assistance we currently give, demand new spending, and then hiding that spending as well. It makes government bigger and bigger, and it really isn't helping the poor, because I don't think these programs should be designed in a way that you do give assistance to those who need it, but you make that assistance conditional on the individual doing something positive in return. A system of mutual obligation.
Incredible, really incredible. As I said earlier, I don't think many Americans know a lot of these things. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I could just like right now, I could reduce the poverty rate in the United States by 75% by clicking my fingers. That's all I need to do. And how would I do that? I would simply count the $500 billion that we already give to families with children through cash, food, housing, and medical programs, almost none of which is counted as income for purposes of measuring poverty. It's a big scam designed to provide disinformation and to basically permanently fuel the welfare state. Because according to the way they currently count things, you can spend and spend and spend. You could double spending tomorrow and it would have virtually no effect on poverty because all of it is not income when the government goes to measure poverty.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Mr. Rector, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thousands of students defrauded by for-profit schools will have their federal loans fully erased at the cost of the taxpayer. The Biden administration announced the news yesterday. The Trump administration previously gave partial relief, but the new change could lead to $1 billion in loans being cancelled for 72,000 borrowers. The Education Department would still need to review the claims of people who say a for-profit school has defrauded them, and it said it's received over 343,000 applications for borrower relief by late last month. The Trump administration's policy was designed with strong safeguards to prevent fraudulent claims by students, but the new policy touts it favors the student more. Are you stressed about your taxes? Well, hackers are hoping you are, and that they can take advantage of it. A cybersecurity firm says a new hacking campaign targets taxpayers with what looks like tax documents. NTD's Phil Zoe reports.
You might want to be careful the next time you check your email. There's a new scam trending on the internet, and it's targeting U.S. taxpayers during the tax season.
Right now, the threat is focused on tax season. People are stressed. People are worried. They have a lot on their mind.
Security firm CyberReason uncovered the new phishing scam by cyber criminals.
They found a malware threat disguised as a Word document centered around tax season. It's basically going to be a form that looks like it comes from the IRS.
If you click on the documents or links, hackers can gain control of your computer. They can then steal personal information or even reroute your tax refunds. And the hackers are not alone. Bigger criminal organizations are actually renting out the malware on a subscription basis. Hackers can buy the malware as a service for as little as $10 a month. They even have 24/7 phone support for the cyber criminals.
Oh, and if they run into any difficulties or problems, they have helplines. They have customer service. This malware as a service phenomenon is widespread and very insidious as far.
To protect yourself, CyberReason says don't open links or attachments from people you don't know and try to visit company websites directly. When possible, use two-factor authentication, such as a fingerprint reader on your phone or a face reader. And if you can, request a text message providing a security code for your login. Phil Zoe, NTD News.
Tech stocks rebounded today as the Treasury yield started to stabilize a little. The Dow fell 234 points at 0.71%. S&P 500 lost 2 points, 0.06%. The Nasdaq climbed though today 99 points, 0.76%. So for the week, S&P 500, the Nasdaq fell about 0.8%. The Dow lost 0.5%. Bank stocks fell after the Fed said it would end some of those emergency measures put in place last year to help deal with the pandemic. Visa also fell today after reports the company is being investigated by the Justice Department. Addicted to your phone? I'm sure you got the cold sweats today when Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram all went down for thousands of users. Downdetector shows that around 1:30 p.m. Eastern, about 120,000 people reported having problems with Instagram. 25,000 reported having issues with WhatsApp around the same time. Both sites usually have just single or double-digit reports. Downdetector tracks outages by collecting status reports from a series of different sources, so like user-submitted errors. so the outages may be affecting a larger number of users. We reached out to Facebook, and the company says a technical issue earlier today caused the trouble, but the issue is now resolved for everyone. And in a heartbreaking incident, the CEO of fitness company Peloton is warning parents after a child died in a treadmill accident. Federal Consumer Watchdog is now looking into it. NTD's Evelyn Lee reports.
Peloton CEO says a child died in an accident involving its Tread Plus treadmill, without giving details. John Foley writes, "While we are aware of only a small handful of incidents involving the Tread Plus where children have been hurt, each one is devastating to all of us at Peloton, and our hearts go out to the families involved." He stresses that Peloton builds their products with safety in mind, but he says customers need to follow safety warnings and instructions to prevent future accidents. Foley asks Peloton customers to keep pets and children away from the exercise equipment at all times. And after finishing the workout, users should remove the safety key so no one can start the treadmill by accident. A spokesperson of the Consumer Product Safety Commission told NBC News the agency is aware of the incident and they're investigating it. The agency reports that emergency rooms treated over 22,000 treadmill injuries in 2019. 2,000 of them were children under 8 years old. Demand for Peloton's products has soared. Its stock climbed more than 400% last year. Peloton CEO says they're looking into ways to reinforce safety warnings. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
And a new survey is out about the conditions new employees say they're facing at Goldman Sachs. The workplace survey comes from a group of 13 first-year junior analysts at the investment bank. They say they're working upwards of 95 hours a week on average. They say they sleep just 5 hours a night and endure workplace abuse. Most of the respondents in the survey say they've suffered a significant deterioration in mental health since starting at the company. Now, the analysts in the survey are pleading with Goldman to cap weekly working hours to 80 hours a week. Still a lot. The spokesperson for the bank says the group presented their findings to management in February, and Goldman Sachs says it's listening to workers' concerns and working on solutions. We reached out to Goldman Sachs but didn't immediately get a response for comment. FedEx shares gained ground today after better-than-expected quarterly profits. It prompted Wall Street analysts to boost its price targets on the stock. Conway G. Gittins has more.
Shares of FedEx are getting a pop Friday after the package delivery company beat profit forecasts for the quarter and raised expectations for the year. The stock has more than doubled in price over the past year as the health crisis caused a spike in package delivery orders. The earnings surprise prompted many analysts to raise price targets on Friday, betting there's even more room for the stock to move higher. Not only was FedEx able to benefit from the boom in demand for shipping, it also was able to lift prices. Revenues surged to $21.5 billion during the December to February quarter, due in large part to the $500 million holiday package deliveries and vaccine shipments FedEx made during that period. Results for the quarter would have been even stronger if it wasn't for a fierce February winter storm that disrupted operations at 3 key facilities. FedEx Ground, which largely serves as the delivery service for e-commerce shipping partners like Walmart, saw a hefty boost in business, up 25% during the quarter.
Tesla cars are famously high-tech, but spy cams aren't among their known features. But even so, the Chinese regime is banning the cars from military housing complexes. Reuters sources say officials are concerned that the cameras on the cars could be used for espionage, and owners were reportedly told to park outside military property. The Wall Street Journal reports Chinese officials found the vehicles could record images of their surroundings. It says the cars are also restricted at state-owned enterprises in sensitive industries and key agencies. Now more than a few car owners could be affected. Tesla sold over 18,000 Chinese-made Teslas last month. Still to come. Congress wants a company to recall a popular pet collar. It's allegedly linked to nearly 2,000 pet deaths. But the company says the collars are fine. And a European airline is trying new ways to keep airplanes flying and staff working. And some customers seem to like the idea. That and more after the break.
if you're like me, and I think it's actually most of us, then you're getting really fed up with the nonsense going on inside the banking system. I mean, we've worked hard our entire lives to retire comfortably. We just recovered from the crash of 2008, and it seems like it's about to happen all over again. Look at the too-big-to-fail banks. They're only getting bigger as the Fed hands them trillions of dollars daily, while simple folks like you and me, we're only getting the short end of the stick. That's why I'm glad I found this book called The Bank Failure Survival Guide. Give us a call, and we'll send you a free copy with no obligations whatsoever. Just one American to another, telling you about some options that you might not have considered. Call 866-239-2619 today for your free copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide. That's 866-239-2619.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and bite-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Members of Congress are pushing to get a popular pet collar off the market. It may be linked to 1,700 pet deaths, but the company disputes the connection between its products and the reports. The Seresto flea and tick collar is popular on Amazon and at pet retailers. One congressman wrote letters to the manufacturer saying it's the only pet product like it to use 2 pesticides. He drew on data from the EPA that cites 75,000 reported harmful incidents related to the collar. He says the number could be much higher. The collar maker told USA Today the fears were unfounded and that the company would not issue a voluntary recall. With many high-earning employees not expected back in the office full-time, the home nesting that became a feature of the pandemic is set to continue. It's according to a new report by McKinsey. NTD's Jasmina Davis reports.
Lockdown has seen people buy their groceries from the comfort of their own home and replace it at night at the theater with Netflix on the couch. According to a new report by McKinsey, that's likely to continue post-pandemic. The analysis is based on surveys of consumers in China, France, Germany, the UK, and the United States. Online grocery shopping was one big winner, with its share of total grocery spend doubling in some countries over the past year, rising to around 10% in the United States. McKinsey also found that older shoppers, once hesitant to use e-grocery shopping, were forced to do so out of necessity and are likely to keep the habit after the pandemic. It's a similar story for at-home entertainment services, with more than 60% of consumers across the 5 countries saying they intended to maintain some subscriptions they started during lockdown. That could signal a longer-term drop in demand for cinemas and theaters. Over 1 in 5 consumers surveyed said leisure travel was one of the top activities they were excited about restarting post-pandemic. But whether routes and prices they were used to will still be available is an unknown. McKinsey expects business travel to drop by 20% after the pandemic, pressuring airlines which previously subsidized leisure seats with profits from business class. While leisure travel demand will not drop, airlines may be forced to offer fewer direct routes and bump up prices to recoup the shortfall from business. Jasmina Davis, NTD News.
Do you remember that precious blue and white ball we reported on just a few weeks ago? The one that someone bought at the yard sale? Well, at the time we told you it could fetch about $500,000. Well, now it's just sold for a whopping $721,000. The seller's from Connecticut and paid just $35 for it last year. The bowl features floral motifs and is actually a rare 15th century Chinese antique. China's imperial court originally commissioned it during the Ming Dynasty. According to the Sotheby's expert, the Ming emperor transformed the porcelain craft, elevating it from a utilitarian bowl into a true work of art. The auction house is not disclosing the seller's identity. And Ukraine Airlines is offering passengers a chance to get out of the house, but just for a staycation. The new attraction also gives airlines a boost amid a 60% plunge in national passenger traffic last year. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
The new service is run by Ukraine Airlines International. Attractions include the Dnipro River and Chernobyl's notorious power station. This flight takes off in the morning and arrives back at the same airport an hour later. It's a way to keep staff working, prevent the aircraft from being permanently grounded, and remind passengers what they're missing. So far, passengers are enthusiastic.
It's very cool and funny. Unfortunately, the weather was not so good, and we haven't seen all there was planned. But the pilots were funny and told many interesting stories. That made it good.
Bogdan Skotnikov is project manager for Ukraine Airlines.
Unfortunately, at the moment, the volume of air traffic is not as good as we wish it to be. And actually, we had time to think about some other projects, which our passengers may like. People miss flying, and we decided to remind them what's it like up in the sky, what it's like to fly, and at the same time to show them the sights of Kiev and the Kiev region.
Transport strategist and researcher Serhiy Vovk agrees any recovery might not happen for another couple of years. He also points out new costs imposed by the pandemic, which may make travel harder for ordinary passengers.
The convenience of the aviation business suffers because the procedure for admitting flights has become much more complicated. Controls of body temperature and some other measures are added. To provide the temperature control in the airport, new equipment is needed. All this increases the expenses of airports, which are passed on by airlines, and as a result, it makes air travel even more expensive.
The January 2021 report from the International Air Transport Association, or IATA, reveals passenger traffic fell in January by more than 70% compared with January 2019. IATA says the aviation industry's global losses in 2020 totaled nearly $190 billion. That's nearly 70% down from pre-pandemic levels in 2019. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
As the latest business updates for today, you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. But for NTD Business, that's all for this week. Thank you for watching. Have a nice weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.